Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. In the year 2023, I played about 300 games for the first time. It's a lot of games. Even I am overwhelmed hearing that. But I did it. I played all of those games for the first time. But because of that, I really appreciate games that are unique. Because I play so many games, I like when a game tries to do something different, something that I haven't seen before. And maybe that is something that's wholly different, and maybe it's just something that's like a cool, unique twist on something you've already seen before. So these are my top 10 unique games of 2023. To be on this list, you have to be a good game and you also have to be a unique game. So let's get into it. Top 10 unique games of 2023. In number 10, I have Empire's End. This almost feels like thematic no thanks. It is a reverse bidding game where you are bidding to get out of bad things. And that's what makes it feel different. In most games, you are getting stuff, right? You are collecting resources. In this game, you are just losing stuff constantly. You are losing stuff by bidding. You are losing stuff from disaster tiles that burn part of your, empire right here. That's why it's called Empire's End, because we all start with the same empire tiles, and throughout the game, we will be flipping over our tiles and burning them. You are constantly burning and losing stuff. And I will say, I like this game better on subsequent plays than I did on my first play. So if you didn't love it on your first play, I recommend giving it another chance, because the first time you play it, I don't think you're expecting to get beat up as much as you do. You're like, man, this game keeps punching me in the face and we're only halfway through. But I knew that going into my second, third, fourth play. I understood that was what's going to happen. And so I was like much more emotionally prepared to get beat up. And then I liked the bidding and I liked the mechanisms of the game a lot more in second and third and subsequent plays. So Empire's End, a reverse bidding game where you were trying to not burn your empire down. Number 9 is Fiction. This is a small box game. It's essentially Wordle with a hidden trader. And that's what makes it, the Wordle aspect of it is familiar, but adding a hidden trader into that makes it feel wholly different than anything you've ever played before. One player plays as the librarian, and that's L-I-E, because you get to lie about stuff. You are playing as a librarian, and you have a word. Everyone else is trying to figure out that word, but they're doing it by using different letters and things like that to sort of, go, okay, this letter's in it, this letter's not in it, that sort of stuff. But the difference is the librarian can lie about one letter every round. I can tell you this letter's not in it, this letter is in it, and this letter is not in it, when in fact that letter is in it. And so you have to use logic as you sort of build your clues over multiple rounds. You have to keep going back and looking at previous letters and words that you gave to go, okay, well, if this is true, then this can't be true, and so you're just trying to logic puzzle piece it all together, and you have 10 rounds to figure out the word. And it is difficult. I've lost this game as much as I've won it, for sure. But if you like word games, Fiction is a very unique word game. In number 8 is Agree to Disagree. This is a party game, and the reason it feels unique is most party games are all about trying to think the same as somebody else. You're trying to get on the same page. Wavelength, code names, all that sort of stuff. You are trying to think the same as other people at the table. Agree to Disagree is the opposite. You are only getting points if you find people that disagree with you on a particular opinion. And the types of opinions, one player will be making a statement. I think pineapple on pizza is great. And then everybody else is deciding whether they agree or disagree with that statement provided. And then you are using this little contraption to try to put it into someone else's contraption and only if you disagree do they come together and you get points. And so you're just like, okay, I know, what do you think about this? And so there's actually not debate during the game. You're just looking around and you can pick any player that you think disagrees with you, and then after the round is over, everybody debates. That's where a lot of the fun and laughter and stuff comes in. It's like, what? You thought that? I could have sworn you were going to do this way. And so it feels different because you are trying to find people who disagree with you on a particular statement. So that's agree to disagree. Number 7 is Dragon Keepers. This is a great little card drafting sort of set collection game. But the reason it feels different is all cards are sort of dual use. They have a front side of it, and then they have a back side of it. And the front side of it is going to get you your set collection in a bunch of different dragon types. And the dragons are very cute and adorable. The art is great in this game. But you can only collect dragons for your sets based on the current value that the book is showing. And so the book is basically saying, to play dragons into your set, you need 3 white dragons, or you need 1 blue dragon. And that book is basically set by cards, and so it's always changing, because every time you're refilling sort of the market with cards, you're taking it off the top of the deck, and then the book changes and the requirements of what you need to play into your sets changes. But the reason I say there are sort of dual use cards is the back of the card, you can play a card out of your hand to change the book. You know, you're like, do I want to play this white dragon into my set of white dragons? Or if I play it onto the book, now I'm changing it to blue dragons, and I have a bunch of blue dragons in my hand, so now I can play those as a set. So there's just some really interesting sort of strategic considerations where you're like, I want to play things in my set, but I have to pay attention to how the book is changing constantly throughout the game, or even I can manipulate it and change it to be able to play the sets that I want. You know, it's a 30-minute sort of card game. It's a bit of like that family weight type of game. I just thought it was really unique and cool. Dragon Keepers. Number 6 is Glom. This actually made my top party games of the year list. And, you know, one note on this sort of stuff is I'm trying to have mostly different games on the different lists. I think at maximum you're going to see a game on 2 different lists, and I'm doing 10 of these different category videos. So there's not going to be a ton of crossover, but you might see it on a couple of videos. Glom is a party game, and the reason it feels very unique in the world of party games to me is because party games are often either silly or thoughtful. I don't get a lot of party games that are both at the same time, and Glom really is. You are rewriting a phrase using none of the same words in the phrase, and you have to follow a rule that is established by a card, and you have to try to accomplish a goal that is established by another card. And so that's another reason why it feels, you know, different. It's an objective party game. It is not a subjective game. This is not one where we go, oh, you had the funniest answer. Whoever did it better, whoever rewrote that phrase according to the rule and the goal better, is going to win that round. And so, you know, goals are things like, did you use the most words with letter A in it? Or did you use the shortest amount of words or characters in your thing? And so you're thinking about how to rewrite that phrase using these sort of parameters and restrictions. That's the thinky part. But then when everybody reads off what they've written, it's so dumb and silly, it gets everybody laughing. And that's the silly part of the game. So Glom, very unique party game. Number 5 is Redwood. This is a bigger box game, bigger than any of the games on this list so far. Redwood is a game where you play as a photographer, and you are moving around the board trying to take photos of different wildlife. But the way you move around and the way you take photos is very unique. You will essentially use sort of like plastic ruler type of things, like almost the type of stuff they use in like wargaming, mini gaming, where you are basically using this plastic piece to then move your photographer to another part of the board and then using a sort of another type of plastic piece that has a different view. You know, some are long and skinny, some are wide and short, and you are trying to put those on your photographer and also capture wildlife underneath that sort of viewfinder, that plastic ruler-ish viewfinder thing you have. I never know what to call it when I'm talking about this game because there's no word. I don't know what the actual word for it is. But you know, one of the things I've played this game with a bunch of different people, and some have liked it and some have not. And I think the reason that a lot of people haven't liked it is because it is imprecise. They say this game feels imprecise, and I agree with that note. I think that is true. It does feel imprecise, but I also think that that is one of the fun moments of the game, is because you can't test those sort of things. You can't see what is in your field of view until you actually grab it and use it. And there are constant moments where you're like, no, I thought this was long enough to get that in my view, and it's not. And oh, this is so frustrating. And I think those big emotional moments are fun and memorable when someone thinks that they're going to be able to see something and then actually can't. So it's also a very, very pretty game. If you want beautiful artwork, beautiful board, Redwood is one of the most gorgeous games of the year for sure. So number 4 is Mission Control Critical Orbit. This is a cooperative game that is best played at 4 players. You certainly can play it with less, but there are 4 roles in the game, and so I enjoy it most at 4 players. This has all of the words in the description. It is an asymmetric, real-time, cooperative, tile-laying game. Like, I could probably throw more of the things in there. But essentially, one person is playing as the astronaut, and they are trying to create pathways with polyomino tiles to create sort of connections, hose connections with oxygen pipes to fix the spaceship. And everybody else is doing a different game to help them accomplish their task. You know, you're rolling dice and then using the dice. So there's a roll and write aspect of it as well, because you roll dice and then use those numbers to sort of figure out a puzzle to help the astronaut. You know, one person is doing something a little like Sudoku. One person is filling off these columns and has to do it perfectly. And so it plays in 20 minutes, and literally that's all it is. You get a 20-minute timer to figure it out, but it is a really unique cooperative game, and it's one where everybody feels good when they finish it. Everybody's like high-fiving, like, we did it, we saved you, you know, and it just, you feel accomplished when you win the game. So if you want a quick, unique cooperative game, Mission Control Critical Orbit is for sure that. Number 3 is Dubious. This is almost like an introduction to RPGs. This is, if someone is intimidated to try RPGs because it's too big of a world or too big of a commitment, there is a storytelling aspect and a role-playing character aspect to Dubious that sort of sets the, mood for playing a character. If you want to try playing a character in sort of a low-stakes board game format instead of committing to a character for like a big D&D campaign or something like that, I think Dubious is great for that reason. In it, everybody gets a role, like an occupation, and a secret. And then questions will come up. And so you might be a baker who has stolen from the tax collector, or you might be secretly sleep in a coffin and you are a constable or something like that. And so every time a question comes up, you have to answer a question based on your character. You know, what did you see on your way to work today? What do you like to wear? Whatever it is, you are trying to drop hints into your answer that sort of indicates what you are, but isn't super obvious. You want to be dubious with your answers because it's Dixit type of scoring. You're going to get points if some people figure out who you are, but not everybody figures out who you are. So, you know, if you're a dragon rider and the thing is like, what's your favorite pet? You can't be like, my dragon that I ride all the time. Like, that would be dumb. You're not going to get any points. But you are playing a role and giving answers based on your character and your secret. And it's a fun little storytelling role-playing game in a box. So, Dubious, check it out. My number 2 is Leaf. Leaf is a game where you are getting some various actions. It's almost an action selection game, but the way you are getting your actions is placing leaves down into a central area on the table in order to touch the tips of leaves together, and based on the amount and the color of the leaf whose tip you touch, you're going to get actions. So if this is a green leaf and I do this and it touches this and this, I'm getting 2 green actions. But what if it does, you know, a bunch of different things? There's all these, it's just a really interesting spatial puzzle. There are different types of leaves in the game too, so, you know, you have to try to figure out which one is going to work for what you want to do and what actions you need and want to select. And so that spatial puzzle is just really interesting, and it looks great on the table, you know? This is all these leaves and this sort of cool puzzle on the table looks really neat. This is definitely, you know, I've had a few times people have asked me on my TikTok channel or stuff like that, like, what's a good game for fall? You know, I want a fall game that isn't a Halloween game. Leaf will be my go-to recommendation. This feels like fall in a board game box. So yeah, it's really cool. And my number 1 unique game of 2023 is Dawn of Eulos. This is a game that has grown on me every single time I've played it. The first time I played it, I think it was so much not what I was expecting. I was like, huh, I like that, but that is not what I thought I was about to play. And then, you know, as I've played it more and wrapped my head around the strategy, I've just come to like it more and more. Every time I play it, I like the game more. It is I struggle to even say, like, it's like an area control economic game, but I think area control is a bad way to describe it because that's what's going to throw off your expectations. It's not really an area control. There are factions, fantasy creature factions, you know, ogres, rat folk, goblins, that sort of thing, and they are controlling areas of the board, but you are not controlling any of them. Instead, you are buying stocks in them. It is an economic stock market game, but set in this sort of fantasy overlay, this fantasy theme, you know, so it feels different than like an Acquire or something like that because it is this like really big fantasy world here. But at its core, you are just buying stocks and trying to predict who is going to take over more of the board, who is going to control more area. And there's also a fun sort of gambling push your luck aspect because when 2 factions should meet on the board, when their land space has grown so large that they come together, they are going to be in a conflict, and you have to play cards from your hand to sort of influence the conflict. And so, but you're going to lose half of the cards you play, and now you won't have as many stocks in that faction. And so you're like, I want to play some stuff to guarantee they win, but I don't want to overplay too much because I need these for points at the end of the game. And it's just a really fun sort of gambling push your luck aspect. If you like, you know, economic games, this is one of the most unique economic games I've played. And I would say I don't even economic games are not something I prefer, but this one feels so different. I really like it. So Dawn of Eulos. Those are my top 10 unique games of 2023. If you want something that feels different than something else you've played this year, I think all of these are great for that reason. You know, they definitely feel very unique in the world of board games. So as I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of these category videos. So I've already done my top 10 new to me games. I've done my top 10 party games. Here we've got our top 10 unique games. So, I'll keep putting out these videos. So thanks so much for liking, subscribing, for checking them out. There's been a lot of great games in 2023, and I hope you get a chance to play some of them. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex.